GM.
GM, Karen, how are you doing?
I am great. I'm back in Hong Kong.
Back in Hong Kong, but preparing for a big week next week again in Taipei.
Yes.
So that'll be exciting for all the, I think there's a couple holder parties. There's like some stuff happening during a blockchain week. I think it's going to be a fun time for all.
Yeah, there are two parties coming up, and we're still going to do a show next week. So if you don't know about the show, there's the ABC of the show. It's Asia focused, builder friendly, and cool vibes only. And we hope that you love this new format because we've seen a lot of positive comments coming from you guys. So hopefully we have another interesting personality today, which you can get to know a little bit more.
Yes. And so before we jump right into the interview, let's hear a quick word from our chairman.
What is discussed on the GM show is not investment advice. We may or may not have ownership interests in the projects we are talking about, but this is not investment advice in any way, shape or form. And this is not Sir David Attenborough.
Thank you, Sir David, as always.
Karen, before we bring on Jeremy, do you play video games? Are you a big video game player?
Yes, I am constantly on my Switch, but I do enjoy a little, like, a time to time at GTA.
You saw the trailer for that this week, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I like playing Fortnite. I know I'm a little too old to be playing it, but I do love it. I love the character design. I love just spending 15 minutes or 20 minutes just running around shooting people. It's very fun. But I don't know. Web3 gaming is really taking off right now, and today's guest, Jeremy Horn from Xterio, is going to talk to us a little bit about how he runs his day. I mean, Jeremy is like a very seasoned veteran, right? He's been in the games industry for about 15 years so far. Currently he's the co-founder and chief operating officer of Xterio, which is a cutting-edge gaming platform and publisher. You can go check it out at what they're doing on their website. And he's really at the forefront of bridging the gap between free-to-play and digital ownership. That's what we're always talking about in Web3. Xterio is boasting a remarkable track record, having secured over $65 million in ecosystem funding from prominent investors, including Binance Labs, Makers Fund, Anthos, Fund Plus, and our own Animoca Ventures from Hong Kong, plus many, many others. Before his role at Xterio, Jeremy held key positions at renowned gaming companies, including VP of Innovation at Fund Plus. He was the Vice President of Strategy at Jam City. He was the GM at TinyCo and Gameloft USA and a producer at Ubisoft. So it sounds like he's worked on almost every single game company out there. He's led multiple blockbuster titles throughout his career, which I'm sure he'll tell us a little bit about. He's been there from their initial concept to their successful live operations, running an impressive cumulative revenue of over $2.5 billion in gaming. That's amazing. This is the guy you want running a Web3 game company. What sets Jeremy apart from in his remarkable portfolio of work and some of the most iconic intellectual properties in the world. He's worked with Star Wars, Marvel, Harry Potter, Avatar, and more. His extensive experience have allowed him to build an expansive network that spans developers, technology providers, IP rights holders, Hollywood, and social media talent. Now, leading Xterio, Jeremy is bringing his wealth of experience and expertise to the nascent but exciting Web3 gaming industry. Jeremy, welcome to the GM show.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hey, GM, everyone. I wish I could talk about my career as well as you talk about mine, actually. I can't do it as well. So I'm just going to take you with me on every freaking Twitter space from now on. It's going to have to be there day and night.
They need to come to the GM show to listen to this kind of crazy talking. Okay, so we have 20 questions we're going to go through today. These are questions we ask all our guests and to kind of get an insight into the mind of the Web3 builder. So you ready, Jeremy?
Let's go.
We have the warm-up session. So first question is, looking at your phone, what's the one app you have on your home screen that not many people do?
I wish I had an exciting answer to that, but you're gonna learn through the entire questions. Like, I became a maximalist minimalist, right? I've tried to cut as many things in my life, right? In terms of like distraction, even clothing, even ownership. Like, I basically own nothing.
Wow.
And really, that's been kind of like something that has happened later in life, right? Where more and more I try to focus on work and family, and I've tried to like remove everything else. So I mean, I've got a bunch of like small games and reading apps, but there's nothing that when I went through, I was like, oh yeah, that's this thing that nobody has, and that's really kind of like me as a person, just trying to like cut the noise.
Okay, that's great. That's so a minimalist look is what you're going for.
Yes.
And that's a good way to keep distractions out of the way. Okay, let's go on to the second question. All right, so you must have some things physical, like a book. So what is the book you've given most as a gift to other people, maybe your coworkers, maybe some of your investors, and why?
Yeah. I don't give anything to investors. They don't deserve, they don't deserve gifts. But to my very good friends, and especially dates, actually, people I've dated, I've always given American Gods by Neil Gaiman.
Nice.
And you know how there's like books that capture who you are and the essence of who you are. And I think that book and Neil Gaiman's work in general really captured a period of my life as like a very tortured young man, right? Trying to figure out his way and being disappointed by reality. I think that book often like was like a window into me. And I mean, it's a wonderful book to read. I read it on a yearly basis, and it's absolutely wonderful.
Wow, that's interesting. Have you seen the show?
Yes, season 1 is absolutely wonderful, incredible. Sadly, when the showrunner left, the show kind of just like declined. But the first season is just visually, the aesthetics, incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Okay, so after a book, like what is something that has greatly influenced your life? It could be a book, it could be a person or a movie or something like that, or the IPs that you're managing.
Yeah, there's kind of like two movies that similar to like the book I mentioned that really, I feel like you were defined in our teenage years, right? We don't change too much after that. Things evolve and tweak, but you're pretty defined around the age of like 17, 18. And at that period in time, there were 2 movies that came out virtually like a year apart. And one was Donnie Darko, which is a very dark,
very dark,
amazing,
very dark movie. But same thing, right? It's like, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to relate, right? When you're 16, 17, like you got a lot of angst and you've got a lot of emotions. You don't know what to do with them. They're just like so big and so out of your body. And that was like the only movie that I thought was really talking about me as like a teenager. And the other one has just been the revelation that was, everything Ghibli related, right? And I'm French. I was born in France, and I will always remember when I went to see Princess Mononoke in the movie theater, and that was just like something clicked. And I think those 2 movies combined really were like, to this day, they're still like where I feel the most myself.
Yeah, you got to check out the new theme park of Ghibli in Japan.
Yeah, I have to for sure. I've seen the latest one, The Boy and the Heron, already, and it is beautiful. Really beautiful. A beautiful tale about grieving, about death, about just like missing someone you love and trying to move on. It's really touching.
Awesome.
Amazing. All right, the next question is, besides your smartphone, what is the one gadget or product in your life that makes it better?
I don't know if you're going to, I mean, it is a product, but running shoes, that's a place where I'm not a minimalist. Like I go through 2 to 3 pairs a year. I'm an avid runner. Nice. And I feel like without running, I would just like, I would spin out of control, right? And even right now where, I mean, I'm sure you know how it is, right? Where I wake up at 6 and I'm on my phone at 6:02, right? And my Slack, my Telegram, like every 7 apps are like full of messages. And so you've got that jolt of stress immediately and you work until 9. But when I can feel I'm about to like just explode and I see a space of like 1 hour in my calendar, I literally have like my running shoes next to my desk, and I like slip them on. I've got a bunch of like ugly t-shirts and shorts right there. I just slip them on, and I just go out the door for like, even if it's 20 minutes, right? Even a hard sprint, like of anger, you come back and you're like, okay, it's fine. All right, what do I need to do next? And so really running is like the one thing that helped me the most.
That's amazing. What brand shoes are your favorite?
You know, I became a big Hoka guy.
Yeah,
which
Hoka's
I'm
the
like,
best.
everybody.
French.
Like, yeah, they're really, really nice. They're really, really comfortable. Yeah, and I pronate pretty bad. And so I definitely need a lot of support.
Great.
Okay, so now we're going into like some more personal stuff. Like, what was an early job you had? It could be like your first job, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I got, you know, that's similar to like something that influenced a ton of you. So in Paris, for those who have been in Paris, a couple of years back, it has closed now, but for maybe 15 years, there was a shop called Colette. And Colette was like the mecca of hype and fashion in Paris. And I got a job there just because I showed up and I was like, are you hiring for the summer, right? And this little lady, I mean, small lady, she wears black, dresses and a white t-shirt. And she was like, yeah, you know what? We could use another pair of hands, right? I mean, at that time, I was like, oh, I got lucky. Later in life, I realized that I was incredibly lucky that this lady was just like, yeah, you know what, kid, we'll take you. And so I worked that summer, but then every weekend for 2 years, when I was in college, I went to law school and I was working there. And I mean, I met Karl Lagerfeld, like met them as like, I met all of the celebrities you can imagine because they were all passing through the shop, right? And I mean, I saw LeBron James, like, centimeters away from me, and, Pharrell, like, it was just crazy to be a young kid. And you were like, wow, for whatever reason, I'm in this like center of culture and cool. But what really mocked me is this little lady called Colette. That's her name. If you did not know who she was at the store, you would think she's just a little old lady that's doing a little menial work around the store, because she would clean the toilet. She would, do the packages. Like, she was not like a boss that's giving order. Whatever needed to be around the store, right? She would do it, putting the stickers on, like making sure that everything was like ready, taking the Swiffer to clean something. And she was so nice. And I was like, man, I want to be a leader like that. Because she was like, so, yeah, there was nothing too small for her. And that kind of like really mocked me. I was like, this is so inspirational. So yeah, Colette was just like an incredible job. I got so lucky.
Interesting. So you're going for it, just going up and grabbing that opportunity. That's kind of a lesson you learned from that.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So next question is, okay, so from that, you kind of told us a little bit already what your day's like, but what does a normal day look like? You get up at 6:02, you're on a phone. What's the rest of the day like?
That's a special time. Like, this is like before Mint, and plus we're doing a ton of stuff. We've got multiple projects. This is probably the worst it's been in like, a year. But normally I wake up, I've got a beautiful family. I go wake up my son. We prepare him to go to school. We have breakfast together. I drop him off to school. I stop at the gym, come back, have a normal, like, kind of like 9 to 6, 9 to 7, and spend time with family. I mean, for those who have families, like, I never thought I would be a family man. And now it's all that matters. Like, literally, I don't give a fuck about anything else. Like, my family is like, and everything I do financially, like, I don't own anything of value. Like, I don't care. But making sure that my family is well set and that they can enjoy life is like critical. Like, that's why I'm like, I need to make more money. It's not because I want to spend it. Is I want to make sure my son is like forever safe, no matter what happens, health problem, anything, that everything is taken care of.
Great. Awesome. So next question is, what is an unusual habit that you have? Well, not running, but like, what other unusual habits?
Sure. It's not that unusual, I guess, but I do drink a lot of herbal tea. Like, I'm a herbal tea addict. I tried, and I'm still a coffee addict, but I've been trying to like decrease it. And so I became a big big herbal tea, and especially the weirder, especially, like Eastern herbal tea that are supposed to do something magical. Every time I see one in a store, I'm like, ooh, this one is supposed to give you like superpower or something. I'm like, I'm gonna try. Some of them are horrible, but yeah, that's my little passion these days.
Oh, you'll find a lot of
I love
unusual
it.
teas in Asia for sure.
I love it. I'm like, the weirder it is, the more I believe there's something magical about it. I'm like, oh yeah, it has to work.
Yeah, somehow it's like a placebo. It's like it's in your head, and then somehow it
Totally.
magically happens.
Totally. I'm happy with placebo. It works.
Awesome.
Okay, the next question you kind of already answered, but let's see if there's another answer for it. What new belief, behavior, or habit that you've recently done, maybe something during the pandemic, that has most improved your life?
Yeah, it's definitely the family thing, right? And it is interesting how you don't expect to love so much. I think, right? You just don't expect it, and until it happens, I don't think you can realize how much love you have inside you, because you've just been this like individual creature your whole life. Even if you're dating or married, you're still like a one person. Like, you can divorce your wife, you can sell your house, and life moves on, right? But definitely, yeah, the belief of like the value of family is transformative.
Right. So besides like the family stuff, like, or the housework that you're doing, when you're feeling overwhelmed, what do you do? Like, I guess like you have a lot of what we just talked, and you said there are a lot of messages on your phone. How do you relax?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely workout is one thing. I'm not big into meditation. I've tried many times, doesn't work. But cleaning is very meditative. I love to clean. Just
Yeah.
if you need me like to come and like clean anybody's house, I love it. It's my jam.
Hey, I think there's a thing, because Ray
It's
just
a
talked
thing.
about like washing dishes.
Yeah, that's what Ray said last week.
I think this is well, I guess like you can try out, like if you are really stressed out, you can just like go clean your toilet or something like that.
It's all about control, right? It's like the more control your environment is, the more you feel like you're gonna have control over the rest, what you can't control.
Yeah, good
That's how
point.
I feel about it.
100%.
Good. All right, the next question. What is one failure you've experienced, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah. I'm always thinking like professional and personal, because they're all like so different, right?
Yeah, sure.
The professional, it's somewhat easy, but I worked on Marvel Avengers, the mobile game, right? And it was like a big production, and I'm a huge Marvel fan. Like, I started reading Marvel comics when I was 6, so it was a dream come true for me to work on Marvel. And the game was a dud. Like, it was a dud. I think it was making something like $70 million a year, which there was no business model, right? We were like barely cutting even, which is not good. And that was really disappointing and emotional, just because I had like so much care and I wanted it to succeed. Weirdly enough, the most successful projects that I've ever made are on productions I don't really care about. Like Family Guy's Request for Stuff. I hate Family Guy. I don't think it's funny. It was making $300 million a year. That
Wow.
game, massive. Harry Potter. I like Harry Potter, but I'm not a Potterhead, right? I read a couple of books. I thought it was okay, and the movies are fun. That made like billions. And I think you learn how you cannot associate yourself with the product, because it warps your decision making, right? And you start to make a product for yourself rather than the audience. I think that's what I learned out of it. It's like,
Interesting.
I cannot make a product for myself, because like there's like a couple 100,000 people like me, but there's not like 20 million, and you need to build for the masses, or at least for a big audience. And then, the personal is, I feel like just relationship disappointments, right? Be it friendships or love. When I'm a sensitive guy, like I've got high anxiety, I've got, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. And when things don't work the way you want, it's hard to let go. It just is, and I feel like I'm still working on that in many ways.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
No, for
Um,
sure.
what is the
This is the psychiatry examination, not really an interview.
therapy?
Yeah.
But what is the best investment you've ever made? It could be money, time, or energy that you spend on these things, and what are the returns?
Yeah, we moved out. So we were living in LA, right? And we moved to the sticks, right? Basically. So, I travel a lot, but I live in the sticks. I'm exaggerating. It's a nice town, but compared to LA, everything is the sticks, right?
Yeah.
But that probably has been the best investment, right? Because you're suddenly able to like just have a more relaxed life, right? I mean, LA, I see the LA hat. I think mine is somewhere. It's a hot city to live in.
Yeah.
It is just a hot city to live in. And probably that was like the biggest like life-changing decision we've made, because I lived in New York, I lived in San Francisco, in LA, like I'm from Paris. And so moving to a much smaller environment actually allowed me to find a lot more space in my life, physically and mentally.
Interesting.
And my financial advice for everyone is broad ETFs, That's it. Be old, be boring. Just put money in like a 30-year fund and come back in 30 years. That's my
good one. Great.
Nice.
All right. The next question we have then is, who is someone you look up to, and what is your favorite quote from him or her?
Yeah, I think it was it's a guy called, you should check him out on LinkedIn, please. Everybody who hears this.
He's alive. He's
he's very alive.
Person.
Very living person.
Great.
He's a guy called Robert Zakari, Zakari. Do ping him on LinkedIn. He was our general counsel at Gem City, and he became kind of like a father figure and like really a mentor. And it's rare in your life to find mentors. Like it's pretty rare. It's a big event when you find someone who really like takes you under their wing. I don't have a quote from him, but just like the ethics of work and how hard he worked and how organized and how on top of things he was. It's really like, even to this day, very seriously, I have days where I'm like, fuck, what would Rob do? And I don't text him. I should text him more often. But I'm really like, Rob would tell me not to do that. And sometimes, that's all you need, is just like having someone who becomes a bit of a moral compass on your behavior.
That's great. What is the one conventional wisdom that you disagree with? Like, that's my favorite question, actually.
Hard work doesn't always pay off. Like this is a very American concept, right? And I think it's been twisted to a fault, where it's this idea that you will get what you deserve, and if you work hard, you'll get it. Sadly, it's not true, right? Like, leave your company, get another job, be better paid, leave on time. Like your job is not gonna care if you die tomorrow. They'll replace you in a week. I'm exaggerating, but yeah, hard work doesn't always pay off. So find ways for you to succeed, legally, of course. I'm like, because this is crypto, I want to reassess like legally, but yeah. Don't fall into the trap of believing that work is everything and that at some point there's a payoff. That's not true, right? I make a lot more money than people work 10 times harder than me, and that's just it's unfair in many ways. But yeah, don't fall into that trap, because it can like spin you out.
Great. All right. So want to have some of your mentorship to upcoming entrepreneurs. What is one piece of advice you would give to a first-time founder?
Yeah, it's the classic first-time founders focus on product, second-time founders focus on distribution, right? It's a famous saying, but a lot of people come to me and ask me like, hey, I've got this, especially in gaming. And it's always the same story, because in gaming, you get into gaming because you're creative, right? And you're like, I'm going to make my own studio, and I'm going to do things my way, and I'm going to make the product my way. And often what they fail to see is timing, right? And what I mean by timing is it's too late to make a mobile studio. It just is too late. That market has matured. It's solid. You've got next to zero chance to pierce. You need to find a transformative event in the industry you're in, right? I mean, in 2020, 2021, that was crypto, right? Where you saw it, right? It was very easy money back then. And everybody and their uncle managed to create a startup that was really well financed. There was a bit of AI if you had like that, that skill set or that mindset. Now there's a return to Web3 gaming, which is very interesting, right? Because 6 months ago, nobody wanted to like invest in anything. And suddenly you get emails that are like, oh, do you have a token sale coming? And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, sure. But you need to find a trend. Like VCs are not smarter. I think that's a mistake I was making. I was like, VCs must be smart. They must know stuff. And then you grow up and you're like, oh no, they just go on Twitter like everybody else and they see something
Exactly.
trendy. And then they have FOMO where they're like, what? Andreessen invested in Web3?
Yeah.
We got to invest in Web3 too.
Yeah.
And you need to find a moment where there's a trend and you need to serve that trend, right? Don't just think your product is going to work by itself. That's just not true.
Right.
You need to chill. You need to chill to investors.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's a lot of good advice from you. But what is the worst piece of advice you ever received? Like,
Oh yeah.
From your investors, from whoever you're talking to?
I had a shit boss once, and at the time I was not making that much money, and he was like, "Oh, after 100K, like life doesn't change much, or like you don't really need to make more than 100K." And he believed it, right? I can tell you, this is dumb. The more you make, the easier things are. Yeah. Like straight up. And he really believed it. And to this day, I'm like, I mean, he was a bozo. Like that guy, I don't even understand why he was my boss. But yeah, I'm like this. I'm not saying like you need to like get money. Of course, at some point you're comfortable and you don't need to always like run after it. But don't tell me that it doesn't between 100K and 200 and like above that. Nah, there's some differences. You get a nicer house, you pay your mortgage faster. That guy. Just thinking about it like annoys me.
That's what we want.
Weird advice.
We want those. Emotional responses.
Yeah.
Here's an emotional response question. I'm sure. Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, or Elon Musk? Why?
Jeff Bezos.
Interesting.
He's definitely the most boring out of the three, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Steve Jobs. I mean, of course, like a visionary, right? But the guy was also a total dick. It's a known fact. And he also was a little cuckoo toward the end, right? With his health, right? And while he has created a legacy that will that transformed the world, literally, it doesn't, like, that's not who I want to be when you hear the stories of Steve Jobs. But Jeff Bezos, right? I mean, I'm sure he's must be like a challenging boss to have, right? But he's known to be very detail-oriented, very organized, right? And he built Amazon, which has a very unique corporate culture, right? They don't do PowerPoints, they do deep analysis, and that's the type of stuff that I like. And Elon, I'm not going to comment, right? There's just, we don't have enough time.
It's a weird time to have that question. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah, the space is gonna blow up when we start talking about Elon.
Yeah. Let's
maybe he'll show up if you say his name 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay, well now we're going into like Web3 related. So I'm really interested, like, what got you into Web3 and especially gaming? Like, how
you're working with these massive IPs. Why you want to come into this new frontier?
Yeah. So, that's what I was saying before about like surfing the trend and mature markets, right? So I became the late co-founder of a company called TinyCo at San Francisco with a bunch of like Andrew and Sully. And those were the early-ish days of free to play, and growth was just insane. And, average age of the studio was like 25 years old, and we were like closing those big deals and shipping those games and making like tons of money, and user acquisition was cheap. And that was really, really exciting. Like any nascent industry is super exciting because there's no playbook. You just move fast, you break things, you just get back up, you move again. But end cycle of any technology, big AAA and then free-to-play mobile, it becomes very risk averse, right? Because the risks are very high, the budgets are very high, user acquisition marketing is very high. And so and we've seen it in the past few years, big companies rarely make new games, right? And you've seen it with King, right? They laid off a bunch of people to like work more on Candy Crush, which is, their golden goose. It becomes very boring. There's not a ton that happens. And at the end of my time at Gemcity, and Gemcity is like the best company I've worked in terms of like company culture, super nice company. But it was just slow and boring. And, at some point, like, what am I really doing? Like, and yeah, it's exciting to say I closed Avatar by James Cameron. It's awesome. But the truth is, it takes 3 years for that game to come out.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's cool, but sometimes I was just like, oh, I can't. It's like, and what was really exciting about Web3 is not, I'm not a DJ, and like, I don't trade. I buy NFTs and I never sell them because I'm like, ooh, I love this project. Like, I love Shrapnel and I love KPR and I love Valhalla. And, I love a lot of projects because they like hit my personal tastes, but I don't sell them. And, I own a couple of like thousands of dollars in crypto, but it's more like diversifying my portfolio, right? I'm like, I'm going to put a little bit of money there. But what excited me about Web3 was, one, it's the Wild West factor, right? And when Axie was happening, it was like, what is this thing? And they make money, and then you start to play it. And as a creative, there's nothing more exciting than new design mechanics, right? If you've made games and you're surprised, it's a fucking miracle, because it happens like once every 5 years, right? Like if I play a AAA game or a mobile free-to-play, I know what it is in like 15 minutes. And I can tell you if it's going to work or not in 15 minutes. Because it's like if you've seen a million movies and you're like, oh, that's the romantic comedy. Yeah, they're going to end up together by the end. Like you can like plot the entire movie, and at some point I can do the same for a game. But in Web3, I'm like, how does it even work? Like, and that's very, very exciting. But then it started to like, when you start reading about how Web3 improves retention and monetization, right? Which are the two levers that are problematic in Web3. And that's why the model is unscalable in free-to-play. Then you're able to create a brand new business model for gaming, right? Because suddenly the math makes sense. Like cost per install is still high, but you have higher retention than your competitors, and you've got higher monetization. And you can create new design mechanics because there's like a transformative technology, just like touch screen was transformative at the time and created like Clash of Royale and Clash of Clans and Candy Crush. And so all of that combined like told me, okay, this is the time. And it was also a trend, right? I was like, if I want to do something, it's now, because if I miss this wave, between start of free-to-play and Web3, there was 12, 15 years, I would say, right? So when it happens, you don't have too much time. You can't think too much about it. And so I started raising money initially by myself. And like third VC meeting I have, Michael Tong was there. And then we had a longer talk together. Michael Tong is the COO of NetEase, was the COO of NetEase, like second biggest company in the world. And we started just talking and we jived, and he basically told me like, we should do it together. Like we should do it much bigger, because I was raising like 6 billion. And he told me, no, let's raise a lot more money. And let's do it big. And that's how we started.
That's amazing. Okay, so you mentioned that you bought some NFTs, so we know you're buying NFTs. What was your first NFT, and what did you learn from it? And we know you still have it though, right?
Yeah, so I think I still have it because it was an Axie back in like 2020.
Okay. Right.
So it is in a MetaMask that I've probably lost a long time ago.
Okay.
Back then, I mean, it was so. I'm a tech guy.
Back then,
it was
just a couple years ago.
It was hard. I mean, buying. I was like, so I've got my MetaMask already. I was like, so a MetaMask, okay, got to do that. So ETH, and it wasn't like as easy as it is now with like Coinbase and on your phone. Like, it was tricky, and so I go on like a decentralized exchange, and I gotta and like it took me hours. And I remember I was paying like so much money in even gas fees because I was making mistakes. I was transferring stuff I shouldn't. And finally, I got my Axie. And I have to say, at that experience, I was like, no, it's never gonna work, right? Just
Exactly.
Like, if I'm confused, it's never gonna work.
Yeah.
But I actually did work. There was a lot of explanation, like timing was a big factor, macroeconomy, the pandemic, the economy was just on steroid at the time, this like movement to transmission of value online. But it did prove a space, right? Like things have changed, of course, for Axie, but without Axie, I'm not sure what Web3 would look like today. It would be very different.
Interesting. And of course, it's a gaming one. That's why you're more interested in Axie, right?
Yeah, for sure. Trust me, when the first Bored Apes or CryptoPunks came out, I was not like, I'm gonna buy that.
Yeah,
like,
right. It has something to do with what you're familiar with, right?
Of
That's
course.
probably the first one in.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So I know a lot of people would be very excited about the next question is, what are you working on right now, and why now, why you, and are people harassing you right now?
People are harassing me, which is positive. But yeah, there's kind of like a structure on what I'm working. So at the highest level, there's Xterio, the company, right? And I have to say right now it's taking 10% of my time because everything is on Overworld. But in general, Xterio is 50% plus of my time. And that's just building a publishing company. And that's a huge amount of work across so many different channels, from raising capital, and you always raise in the moment you have a startup. You're always raising, even when you're not. Hiring, structure, like legal in Web3 is very challenging. Like there's just so many legal meetings to create a specific structure that works, that is compliant, that is legal. And we're a legal company, right? It's our faces. You can see us. I'm in the US, which is like the riskiest place to be in. And so that's like a huge amount of my time. Managing a lot of our titles, right? So working with the different game teams. So there's Overworld, but we've got projects, multiple mints coming even after Overworld. We've got the amazing Age of Dino, led by some of the best strategy game makers in the world. We've got 3T, which is like a GTA-inspired heist game, super fun. We've got Paleo, our AI project. But then we're signing deals for, launch pads and signing deals with publishing, and just like we're very, very busy. And we're also an active investor as well. So there's always like something. But it is true that this past, I would say 5 weeks, like Overworld has been like 90% of my time nonstop. And, it's been running our marketing campaign, making sure that, all of our assets were up to stuff, that we had all of the animations. I'm very proud of the fact that Giancarlo Esposito voiced our animation, if you've seen The Mandalorian or Breaking Bad. Yeah. And yeah, the mint is coming on the 15th of December. I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes during, on this project. And so now I know how to run it even better in the future, because building Web3 is like, you don't have the guidebook and the playbook from the past. Right. Like, so, yeah. To your point about like, am I being harassed? I am. And I think it's because I've made the mistake of at time communicating too personally with some people, where, I was like letting DMs come in and, be like, oh, I'm sorry, trying to communicate. And that essentially flooded all channels, right? And now I'm like, okay, I'll have great, collab managers do it on my behalf, because it's being destructive to my time producing, right? Because my job is at the end of the day to deliver. Like the holders, they don't care if I respond necessarily to like everybody individual. I'm sure they like it, but they care more that I deliver like really high quality products. So yeah, the mint is coming, but we've got a ton of stuff that are coming after that.
Lucky you don't have a YouTube show where people can also harass you. So that's good. Keep that one. Don't ever start one of those.
Yeah.
Just for some of the people who don't know, I've been looking at the Overworld Twitter feed. Looks amazing. What kind of game is it? What is the Web3 element of it, and what do I get if I am able to mint the NFT next week?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the NFT, and then I'll explain onward.
Okay.
So on the 15th of December at 8 a.m. UTC, we're going to be selling 2,100 remaining NFTs at 0.15 ETH. And I stress remaining is that we had a very, very successful private pre-sale with Animoca and YGG and a lot of like big holdings that do not want to wake up at 8 a.m. UTC and use, one wallet at a time. So they bought multiple hundreds with vesting. So that's why we also made sure it's a win-win, right? There's less to mint for the public, but we've also kind of like compressed the available supply on trading because all of their NFTs are going to vest over time. And so if you mint an Incarna, which is the name of the collection, one, you have a beautiful PFP. 2 weeks later, we're going to take a short break over Christmas, come back, do the reveal. Over 500 traits, inspired by anime, inspired by Western fantasy. Try to create something that's very unique and not seen in Web3. I talked about me, and I've mentioned like I'm not a cool dude. Like I'm not a hype beast. I know barely anything about what's cool these days. So I really wanted to hone more on like what I know, which is gaming culture and nerd culture that I'm pretty good at, and that's what we're going to deliver. After the NFT has been revealed, we're going to move and that's alpha. Big news on the token and the token pre-sale. We're going to big news. So literally 2 days after the mint itself, we're going to start the like phase 2 of our marketing beat. So it's like I'm running a marathon. I'm about to finish it, and someone is telling me, "All right, you got the second marathon now." So literally, we're like,
it never ends.
It never ends.
Never ends.
So then it's like big second phase. The NFT holders are going to get 3% of the token supply on the day of the listing and the day of the airdrop. Of course, I can't comment on like a date for the listing, but we're moving fast, like very, very fast. So I'm excited about it, trying to really like, for a very simple reason, the market is hot. You can't wait. When crypto is hot, you gotta go. You can't wait for it to like cool off and then hope that it's gonna come back soon. Like you just gotta go. So we're like full force doing it. The day the token gets listed, the day of the airdrop, we're opening the Overworld web experience and marketplace where you can spend that token across multiple in-game assets, from land to workers to the forge. And all of these assets generate resources or can use resources to create new items, and you can equip those items on a character and go on missions. And that's all UI based. It's not the real game. It's just like until the game comes out, we wanted to make sure everything you have from our project has utility day one, right? It's not the token is out, come back in 6 months. Like the game is not out yet, but you can already prepare for the game. You can already get items. You can already buy land. You can already make that land work for you. And around the May-June mark, we plan on launching our alpha for our holders. So it's going to be a small group holders, and probably give a couple of like friend invites to our holders so that we have enough of a player base to just test. Is the economy good? Are there bugs? Did you fall through a wall and now you're just like floating in space and you can't like restart your character? Everything that game development is. So that's going to be in June. And then that's going to be like development, probably 6 months later, closed alpha, and 6 months later again, full game launch. So what is Overworld the game? It's an action RPG set in a anime-inspired universe where you and a group of friends are able to cooperate and collaborate, going on missions, defeating monsters, using different skills, improving those skills so that you get like one role within your group or like one specialty or one way to play. Collect items, mine ore, fish ponds, come back into the hub, craft more items, progress the story. It's a very story-driven game where I'm inspired a lot by like how Persona handled game progression and story. And then have all of the Web3 ownership through not only the land you own, but this concept, which only Web3 allows us to implement, which is finite economies, where everything that is in the game is finite, meaning from the tree you cut, it's not going to regrow unless you like put a seed and you wait for it to regrow. But the gold, once it's taken out of a mountain, it doesn't come back, right? So we're going to have supply limited resources across the board, and us, Overworld, will act that time as like the central bank to make sure that things are like stable and players have enough, but there's still like tension around supply. And I'm really happy to announce that right after mint, we're going to launch our video teaser of the game. It looks beautiful. I think people are going to be super hyped to see that it's not vaporware and that the game is like in a pretty good state.
Amazing. Wow. Sounds exciting. Wow. I'm very excited. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the last question before we figure out how GM Show listeners can get involved in Overworld. And this one's also, I think, one of the most important questions because we always seem to get a charged response. And you said you love get these kind of emotional questions. But the final question is, go ahead, Karen.
What's the one misconception about Web3 you want to change? And I know you might have a lot, just like
one.
Just choose
Just
one
one.
for.
I think the script in Web3 has been, how do we onboard normies, right? How do we onboard millions of people? And I think that's like the total wrong way to think about it, right? Because it sets a mindset of, I hold the truth, I know the value, and you do not, right? Yeah. Where I think that's very wrong, and that's why we often focus on the wrong thing in how we communicate about Web3. It's like most people don't really care too much about, on-chain and what's not off-chain, just like people don't care about Google servers or AWS or Azure from Microsoft. Like, I think we need to abstract some of those things and focus on experiences, right? Which is what people care about. And so that's why even for Overworld, I never want to think about like, how do I build this like hardcore Web3 and I'll prove to the normies that they should come. I'm focusing more on like, I want to build a great experience with optional engagement with, trading and economies and on-chain, right? I think that's really what within us, our community in Web3, that's what I want to do. I want to reverse the script of like, because from the outside, let's be honest, when you look, right now there's Art Basel, it's a bunch of like young kids often that are having a blast, but that's not most Americans or not most people in the world, right? It's like the lady who's 34 and she's a mom of 2 and she plays Candy Crush. That's not appealing to her. So how do you flip the script and provide experiences that are Web3 enabled for that audience, for every person out there?
Yeah. Great.
So I just want to tell everybody, well, before we let Jeremy go, stay tuned on Memeland's Discord, and there will be more information about how you can get involved in the Overworld whitelist, and there's a chance you will get one. But I can't tell you now.
The biggest allocation, and Memeland is the only one who can give us those whitelists after tonight. Everybody else, we've mentioned, today's the last day. Memeland, special treatment. If you come back, on like Monday, Tuesday, you're all good, all set, no problem.
Oh my God. Okay, this is exciting. And I can't wait for a minute, to be honest, like next week.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Stay tuned, guys. And we're really happy to have you, Jeremy. And
Jeremy.
It was super fun. All right. I'll see you when I see you.
We'll see you soon. Everyone. We'll see you now. We'll see you next week at the Mint.
There you go.
See you.
I'll be in Singapore if you want to meet me. All right.
Okay.
Take care.
Don't burn out. All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. That was great. Another great episode of our new format. I learned a lot from Jeremy, and I'm very excited about his Overworld launching next week.
Yeah, can't wait. I'm actually, I might have some whitelists. I don't know. Not financial advice.
Not a financial advice, but you have to go to the Discord, the Memeland Discord. Where do you go, though? That thing is, there's a lot of channels in there. Is there like a special channel to go into?
We will be doing an announcement.
Announcements.
For sure.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay, that wraps up this episode. Next week, we're going to do it again. Same bat time, same bat channel, and with another guest with the same 20 questions to learn more about insights into the Web3 builder mind. And please let us know what you think. Subscribe to YouTube or on X, whatever you prefer. And we'll see you next week.
Yep. See ya. Baby.